Zibusiso. And I would just like to say, first of all, before I get into what I'm here to present, Poetry Bulawayo was the first platform that ever published any of my work. And it's one of only 3 platforms, actually. But I would like to thank Nyoni for this opportunity. This is a very 360 moment for me. So thank you very much. My presentation is called To Make a New Body. And I don't really like to explain poetry before I say it, but I hope that it inspires you to reflect on self and to reflect on how your body came to be. Yeah.
You've explained now.
Yes, I have. Okay. I'm very nervous, so bear with me.
Okay.
My body is a haunted house. There are ghosts that live in here. They thrive on the trauma I feed to them. I tend to them and keep them alive, refusing to let them pass into the light. The uncle whose name I refuse to speak lives in my right leg. The bullies from school occupy my mouth, and if you look closely, you will see a face on my left foot. There are words in here: stupid, ugly, fag, skin and bones, weak, girl, girly. There are secrets and countries, and there are living beings whose flesh I have consumed to keep mine from rotting. It is imperative that I rip this self that I have been given, and out of its fragments, fashion a new body. Let us begin. Some of us hate our fathers. They have made us a fire unto ourselves, made us broken things, so we spend the rest of our lives trying to put ourselves back together. We are told to forgive, but how do you forgive someone who will continue to hurt you even from beyond the grave? I suppose they don't know that ghosts can talk. My father's story begins north of my mother's first home, Sizinda. There is strife there. There is never enough air to breathe, even though the windows remain open all day. He shares a bedroom with 2 brothers and many others, some even strangers who come and go. The story goes that one day my father came in from a free boxing class down the road and threw himself on the bed, which operated on a first come, first sleep rotation. They came in the middle of his nap, first his brother, then others. They dragged him out of bed and told him he did not deserve a place amongst them. They fought. He beat his brother black and blue. 2, the story goes that my father's parents did not like him very much. His memory is peppered with nights spent sleeping outside because he was blamed for things he did not do. Belt marks on his opal-colored skin because he was blamed for things he did not do. 3, the story goes that my father's father loved educating children that were not his own. Nieces, nephews, and strangers all got the education my father did not receive. Out of frustration, my father tried to commit a crime, hoping that a prison sentence would come with a free education in jail. He failed. What do you think happens to children who are born from such men? Men who only have brokenness to give. My father holds brokenness with all of his body. He turns it into a sword that slashes his children to pieces every now and again and drinks of their blood as if in ceremony. But there are many things that my father does not know about my body. My father does not know that my body is a house, and the only heirloom that I have from him in this house is brokenness. He does not know that I too hold brokenness with all of my body. I use it to ride and rob other bodies, pretending to be in love for the 15 minutes it takes for the fantasy to climax. My father does not know that my body turns into a graveyard soiree every 3 months. It is here, after an orgy of pills fall down my throat, that the ghosts that I keep in my body begin the haunting. They manipulate my body for pleasure and force pain down its throat. But they say that most of your body is matrilineal. You inherit your skin from your mother and the women that came before her. My mother lives in my skin. I feel her when my body heats up in rage and I spew a fire that burns everyone around me. I ride its crest as though I were high, enjoying the suffering I render with my words. She is there, when the only source of confidence I can muster is to hold my head high and sneer at the rest of you as though you were filth. I wear my mother when the waves come crushing in. I want to die half the time I am alive, so I use her as a shield to keep the water at bay. My mother's mother lives in the circular border of the cells that swim beneath my black. I feel her when my throat constricts itself in silence, and when my chest chokes up with years of things unsaid and chooses to throw tension into the gaping quiet. And when silent tears fall, believing that no one, even myself, can rescue me, I hide behind the fierce independence I have cultivated for such moments. I remember her as both soft and hard in the same breath, my grandmother. Locked in her fortress of silence where none of the violence of my grandfather and all the men around her could penetrate, I learned from her to use softness as defense against cruelty. How could I not, when I've inherited her skin? She extends herself sometimes and engulfs me. She wears my body and avenges her silence at the slightest whiff of an attack. And I destroy everyone around me with the harshest words and lay more bricks around my own fortress of silence, taller and grander than hers. But my mother tells me that I was born with my father's sparkling eyes and an inquisitive energy and the radiance of a sun king. That only the dark magic of trauma could have dimmed such a light. A series of short poems on how you lost your voice. 1, you're 6 or 7 or 8, excuse me. It is nighttime in your grandfather's blue living room. There is a body of a grown man next to you. The body wakes you up and takes you to the bathroom, to pee, it says. You walk into the bathroom, it walks in after you and locks the door. You remember that you hate your grandfather's bathroom. It's small and always damp, so for the next 15 minutes, you focus on the damp floor and choose not to see what the grown man's body is doing with its hands. 2, you're 14, underweight, and kind of cute. A boy from school calls you a fag. You don't know what that is, so you go to the computer in the library and look it up. You remember 2 things, the explosion in your chest and your grandmother expanding from your skin and squeezing your throat shut until the voice in it tumbles back into your chest. 3, you're 15. It's midnight. You're pretending to be asleep. There is another body next to you. The body extends its hand and caresses the length of your body. You open your mouth to say something and remember that you have no voice. It sits in your chest and tumbles down into the pit of your stomach and turns to acid. You freeze. Inside, you remain the 15-year-old boy that gets raped by his relatives. The 15-year-old boy that is housed in a body that is queer. And I know that here, that is a death sentence. There is no land given to people like me, not even the border of that which you call your country is designated for me. To live in the body that is queer is to know that you will begin to hate yourself before you know what love is. It is to know that this is your home, as long as you pretend to be what you are not. It is to be called a house that harbors demons. It is to be shamed. What happens then to those whom even the periphery of the land will not claim? They make other homes that are veiled by the shadow of the night. Because what is a home but a 3-dimensional body that houses other bodies? On a hot Bulawayo afternoon, Tabo stands in the mirror. He will take sandy brown powder and cake his face thick with it, forming the foundation of the home he is building. He will take thick brown lipstick and mark the border of the town where he will house his lover's tongue later that night. He will whisper, "Daddy," to his lover's ear, and that will become the border of a new home. His lover will choke him to near death, leaving thick red lines on his neck, and that will become the border of a new home. All these homes that are formed on the ocean of sexual pleasure, that house all the bodies that you discard without ever thinking of how much is lost, that shine bright and mighty by day and fall under the silence of fear by night, are our homes. Journal entry, March 2012. Dear self, there is nothing for you here. You must burn everything you are and have known, leap into the air, and flee. I did not know that I was housed in a body that is black until I fled my mother's country. I always thought it was just broken. But there are many levels on which your body can shatter. To move through the street in a body that is black is to be in a constant war. To be born into this body is to break before you can become whole. It is to be the back on which others maintain their privilege. It is to bear the grunt of capitalism. It is to be born twice, first by your mother, and second by the system designed to break you. 1, At the airport in Beijing, I arrive with the stars in my eyes. I make my way to the waiting area, and an old woman with a young toddler lets out a small scream as soon as she sees me. She turns to her toddler and speaks to him in rapid Mandarin. She points at me and laughs. 2. I enter a bus in Wuhan City. There are no free seats, so I stand next to a middle-aged man. The man immediately puts his hand over his nose and gives me sidelong glances filled with disgust. I have learned by now to fold myself inward, dim my blackness down so that I seem less threatening. The man holds his breath until he gets off at the very next stop as though something has chased him away. Something deep inside of me tells me that something is me. 3. I desperately search the internet for job ads. My bank account has eroded. I call the first number on the first job ad I see. Where are you from? Says the voice on the other end of the line. Zimbabwe, I say. Sorry, no blacks, the voice says, and slams the phone down. 4. I'm in a bar in downtown Hangzhou with a white friend of mine. African music starts to play. My white friend jumps onto the dance floor and twists and gyrates to Davido's smooth vocals. She captures the attention of all the black men there, and some of the black girls look at her with open contempt. After the song ends, she saunters back to our table and says, "Gosh, why do black women hate me so much?" with a satisfied smile. 5. At the airport in Hong Kong, the immigration officer scrutinizes my passport for 15 minutes. She hands my passport over to another immigration officer who demands that I follow him. This is the fourth time this has happened in a space of 2 years at the same airport. When I approach the bench designated for suspicious travelers, all I see are faces of people that look like me. 6. I'm on a date, and the first thing my date says to me is, "I know you must be very big. All black guys have very big dicks." 7. I'm tired now. I'm full of rage. I fight every racist I see on the street, in class, on the internet, and at work. But I know that this is a war I can never win, no matter what I do or say. At the end of the day, I'm still black. September 10, Harare International Airport, 2 p.m. The plane descends slowly. You are back. There is no returning now. You know without knowing that they will ask why you came back here, of all places. No one will ask you what it was like out there. They will pretend not to see the tears dancing just behind your eyelids. You will want to describe how home burnt you to ash, so you looked for any open way to live, took the first route you saw, and jumped without looking, only to have the ocean swallow you whole. They will pretend not to see how much more afraid you have become. You can't even stand in a crowd anymore, and you always seem to be fighting, even in silence. And on the days when the world comes crashing down on you, on the days when you cannot get out of bed, they will think foreignness has made you lazy. They will choose not to listen when you tell them of how you almost forgot your own name. Because that is not the difficulty. The difficulty is having seen your mother queue for tissue down at Hypermart. The difficulty is having returned to find Hypermart replaced by a foreign company. The difficulty is having seen others like you perish at sea trying to get away. Don't you know what was sacrificed to get you out of here? And you dare to return with nothing but a broken body. Can you eat trauma? What were you thinking dragging it behind you like that? And so what if where you were, they laughed and jeered at you and said, "Look at that black African, so black. Why is he so ugly? Oh, Africans are like that." They will say, "At least you had electricity. At least the roads you walked on had no holes in them." They will wish they were you. You will not tell them of the job ads that still say, "Sorry, no blacks," or "Those with black skin don't apply," or "Whites only, please." That is not the difficulty. The difficulty is having to hide who you are because someone might slit your throat if they find that you're queer. The difficulty is having to return to everything you worked so hard to get away from, with nothing but a broken life to show for it. So where do you pour your hurt when your body can no longer contain it? Perhaps you think if you put your body to death, all that is screaming in your head would disappear. So, I've decided to die. And to this effect, there are a few things to settle first. For one, how will I die? Hanging on a rope would be impractical. I fear the ceiling might cave before I die. And there's the question of my body. What do you do with a dead body that has no story? I try to evacuate such thoughts from my mind. Dying must be about me, not those left behind. And what of my personal effects? I am poor and have no prospects, but I still have stuff. And who will discover my body? And how soon after I commit the act will they see it? These have to be timed perfectly. I must not survive. I have also considered slitting my wrists, jumping off a building, a bridge or roof, jumping in front of a car or train or truck, electrocution, drowning, or perhaps respiratory depression. A mix of fentanyl, HCI, midazolam, Nembutal, or Senecal in a 10 ml rig IV, quick and precise. But you see, the thing about home is you will inevitably encounter yourself. Eventually, you will catch up with who you are. You will remember that your grandmothers live in your skin, and that there is always another ending. On that day, they will not barricade themselves in silence. Instead, they will expand themselves and dance in your skin and pack language back into your throat. They will say, come, there is room for you in your father's home. No one can throw you out, even though you hate him. It is not permitted. They will take you to the water, because the water knows. The water is thick, vast, and ever-changing. It is the beginning, the first point, the amen. The water knows my name. It gives life and takes life away. It is a shape-shifting thing, sometimes small, sometimes mighty, sometimes viscous. I am the ocean. My skin dissolves and becomes the salt. The ocean washes my bones and gives them new form. I am submerged in the ocean, and the ocean, our first mother, sings me into new form. My ancestors live in water. I lay open to their hands and they mold me into a new thing. And the water corrodes the hurt out of this body. And out of water, I will fashion a new body, my new home. This body is God. It will expand and occupy nations, and in living its truth, will become an ancestor to many. Thank you.